Powered by Virginia Radio.
Hello, and thank y'all for joining us this Monday evening. Well, folks, y'all know me. My name is Big Al. I'm the HNIC of the podcast Let Me Say Something. And this is the segment, the community heroes of the 757, and I got a definite community hero for you guys, man. Someone that's been serving us, someone that's been working with us, someone that's been doing the job extremely well, to the point that he is now the interim police chief of the Hampton. Hampton. His name is Orrin Gallop. Chief, how you doing?
Good.
Listen, we appreciate you stopping by. I know you got a busy schedule there, okay? And so we're going to go ahead and get started then, okay? You know, first of all, listen, you've been, in case you folks don't know, he's been as a police officer for almost 30 years. Am I right about that?
30 years be September.
30 years September. My goodness. Now, my first question, why did you choose law enforcement?
It was something that I've always wanted to do. It was two dreams I had. It was math and science, and it was policing. I love math and science, but it didn't love me the same way back. and then it was policing. And also when I chose Hampton because my mother, I'm originally from Elizabeth City, which is not that far away, and my mother had
Elizabeth City, North Carolina.
And she had a stroke, and I wanted to be close by her. So when I applied for different places, I chose Hampton because that wasn't too far away.
Okay, but what made you say, okay, I want to go into law enforcement, as opposed to, let's say, doing other things, or like you said, you good at math, etc. Why did you choose law enforcement particularly?
Well, I've been in the military. I first of all, I did aviation electronics in the military. Then when I joined the reserves, I switched over to military police, and so when I got into that, I enjoyed it, and then that's what got me into. I was like, I think I want to be police, and it was something that I enjoyed.
Oh, okay. By the way, my daughter's in the Air Force. She does the same thing, aviator.
I was in the Navy, you know.
She does the same thing. Okay, and she's loving it. Okay, so you went from the military police to the regular police. Was that a difficult transition?
No, it was not. For me, it wasn't, because even though it's different because the military police is more structured. People follow the orders, whereas in civilian policing it's completely different. And I enjoyed the challenge, and I liked it as a patrol. I really enjoyed getting involved, meeting with the people. You know, I walked the beat for a while, which we don't, for a lot of people, that's something different. Back then we had something that people don't realize, payphones. That we used to do that, so I enjoyed all that.
Kids don't remember that.
Yeah.
They don't remember that payphone.
So I enjoyed all that, getting to know the people, and so that's why, to me it wasn't that hard of a transition.
Okay, excellent. Now, you worked your way up, and just to let people know, okay, and I mean, he has a title of interim. You might think, well, interim, that means. Listen, this young man is very qualified. Okay, extremely qualified. Just so, if you don't mind, let me read a couple of these off here. Okay, he's been a police sergeant. He's been a trainer. He's been deputy commander of operations. He's been assistant chief of operations branch commander. He's been support services assistant chief support services commander, assistant chief investigative services, deputy chief of police, and he is now interim chief of police. I believe that happened in April. I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're extremely qualified. Why interim?
Because it was a decision of the city manager that they want to do a national search for a police chief. So as a deputy chief, when I was approached by it, I enjoy policing and I love where I work at.
Okay.
And I had no problems except in being an interim.
Okay, so is it a matter? So they're doing a search right now, apparently.
Yes.
Okay, a nationwide search, etc. Do you have the inside track, which I think you would? with your background, with being doing a job right now. From my intel, you're doing it pretty well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Hey, they told me this. I'm just saying, hey, I was told this. Okay. Okay. And yes, Ashley, I do have feelers in there. Okay, just so you know. All right. So what is Ashley doing? But yeah, and I got, and folks, as I keep telling you guys, as you know, I have a few of my family members that are in law enforcement, et cetera. So a lot of times I have a little different take on it than other people do when things, where certain things go down. You black people know what I'm talking about. Okay, so and when you have someone that really cares about the community, that's what we want. That's the person that we want in charge, and that's the person that you want in charge as well. You know, so this gentleman here, he's been in for 30 years, so it's more of a calling than anything else, and he just says he loves it. You know, he's doing it for all the right reasons. All right, so that's something I can appreciate and respect. Okay, now, as interim chief, what are your plans? What's the number one priority?
It's two.
Okay.
Recruiting and retention, and also a reduction of gun violence. Those are my two main goals that I'm working on.
Hello, and thank you for calling. Powered by Virginia, and this is Big Al. Well, let me say something. You got the police chief on the line. Who's calling?
Big Al, what's good with you, dog? This Big Kev, man.
Hey, Kev, what's happening, man?
Chillin', I was listening to your show. I just wanted to let you know that people can barely hear you.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Oh, well, let me tell my engineer.
Yeah, you got to turn the volume up a little bit, big dog.
Now, is that for both of us or just me?
Both of y'all were kind of low.
Okay, so we're both kind of low there, engineers, so let them take care of that. All right. They said they got it, Kev.
Yeah, and I just wanted to tell you, man, I respect everything that you're doing, and keep putting that work in, G.
Hey.
Salute to the police chief.
All right, all right. That goes both ways, my buddy. Have a good one, man. Thanks for letting me know, bro.
You too, G.
Take care.
Thanks.
All right.
So they missed all the good credentials you gave about me?
Just so you know, it comes up in words too.
Okay,
all right. See, we don't waste all that. Yeah. Jeez, man. Jeez. Let's see. Okay, so you know, so you, I've got my train of thought here. Okay.
That's what the two main things.
Yeah, yeah. So you said there are two main things. Go right here.
Recruiting and retention, and reduction of gun violence.
Okay, now gun violence is something that's really close to our hearts. Here at Powered by Virginia, we're fighting the good fight against gun violence, and trying to reduce it. But we're starting at a level where we're trying to get to the younger kids first. Mm-hmm. You know, we figure we can get them to make better decisions, then it makes it easier for everybody else as they grow and mature. Now, what are you all doing as far as gun violence and trying to reduce that?
Well, we're looking at it as multiple plans. It's that not everybody can be treated the same, because you have one group of individuals who there are different interventions that can work, different type of engagements we can do, and there's another set that have to be either incarcerated or detained, right, because it's basically almost to save their lives also, because there's only a small group that's actually doing the shooting, and most people think that there's a lot of people doing it, but it's not. It's a small group, and as time goes by within that group, it becomes smaller who are the actual shooters. Even in the gangs, not everybody's actually doing the shooting. So right, it appears that there's a lot of people, but it's a small group, and they're normally repeat offenders. They've done it before. Mm-hmm. And as time goes by, if there's not some type of intervention between different types of programs or a detention or apprehension, they'll continue to do it.
Okay. So your programs, do they work once they're incarcerated, or do you have programs working before that?
We have programs that are working before.
Okay.
We on our side, we have a lot of programs, and they also do have some programs with the sheriff's department that does it while they're incarcerated. But we have different programs and different interventions where we look at some of the root causes, what causes the problems. And the city's has different grants that they've gotten. The police department, we do different things, different types of engagements. We're looking at, there's not one solution. There's not one type of program. And the mistake I think that too many people made in the past, we try this one thing because it worked for this person, we'll think it'll work for everyone, and it doesn't. It's like you almost have to have individual plans for each person. Yeah.
You know, and I applaud you all for doing that. Like I said, What are some of the names of the programs that you're using that you guys are?
Well, I'll say one that we're doing now is Hope for Hampton. It's it involves everyone. It involves police. It involves social services, community service board, Commonwealth attorney, school system, housing. Depends on whoever we needs to be involved in what we do. We meet and we look at cases. We look at different people, and we say is that how can we best? What's the best program for this particular person? And we all go around the table and we talk about it.
Okay.
We talk about, that maybe this is better for the Commonwealth attorney, maybe this is best for police. We go over the history, then CSB may intervene or different ones may intervene. So it's a real collaborative effort. And I think that's probably one of the most comprehensive programs. We work with, I've been working with Johns Hopkins University, where we take cases and we deconstruct. We look at cases that have already been either adjudicated through court or cases that are currently pending, and we go back and we look at what are different interventions with the suspect or the victim where we could have done things, where there are programs that worked, programs that didn't work, and could we have gone down different pathways. So that's been interesting to look at how when we broke those cases down to look at from a young age, because I think the youngest I've seen so far to where they first got involved in law enforcement was I believe it was either 7 or 8. And you'll see that pattern once they start, you'll see it gradually pick up. And by the time they get to that teenage age, 13, 14, they've already started to become a shooter. Those are the hardest ones to find the interventions.
Right. I'm assuming they probably don't want your help.
Well, it's that.
Most times.
It's that I think probably they don't see that they need our help. They may not want it, but they need it. I would say it's better that way. Is that I always look at is that sometimes people don't know what they need. They don't understand that they do need help, and they may not realize there are other choices that they can make. I know for us in Hampton and even Newport News, if there's a shooting, there's probably over a high 90% chance that it's a black male. Yeah. And it's normally that, contrary to a lot of belief, instead of it being that under 18, they're normally that 18 to 24-year range where you see the actual shooter. I think ours was either in the mid-20s was the average age of the actual shooters.
That's interesting because you look at the news, it always seems like there's a teenager doing a shooting or
right.
Someone that's 18, 19, maybe 20-year-olds doing a shooting. That's all you see.
Most of our victims of gunshots have been adults. Mm-hmm. And I think we've only had actual few, probably on one hand that you count the number of juveniles. It seems like it is more because because that's what makes the news. And we still treat them the same. We call them, we look at we create a vulnerability list. And we look at a vulnerability list consists of people who we believe that may get shot or may be a suspect. And we look at them, both of them are vulnerable. And we look at how can we help both. What can we do to prevent you from becoming a victim? And if you're victimizing, how can we stop you from victimizing? And we actually do scores and look at this person is the most vulnerable person, and that needs to go to the top of our list.
That's interesting. How important is parenting for these children? Because you can't do everything. I have 4 kids. All my kids are grown. I got 4 myself. How important is parenting? And every time I have this conversation with people, they get mad at me. And I say, well, you can't expect the police to parent your kid. You can't expect the teacher to parent your kid. You got to parent your own kid. So in your opinion, how important is that before that kid gets out there into the world?
Very important, because no matter what program I may do, you're still going to be home. Mm-hmm. At least majority of the time you're going to be home. So whatever we do, if there's not the proper parenting, then a lot of our work, it kind of falls by the wayside. And one of the things we realize is that in order to fix the child, I also got to fix the home too. So if I'm going to look at an intervention that works, it can't work without the parent participating. And I think sometimes we look at it, we put all these programs together, and it's a lot for it. It may help where, we need to fix what's wrong with the child, we need to do all this stuff, but we're not looking at it. They still have to go home.
Do you have programs for those parents?
Yes.
Okay.
Those same programs that we do is that we look at it too, is that, but they have to want to participate. And that's where it is that sometimes it's the hardest thing for people to see sometimes that they need help. that they do need help, and it's hard to reach out and say that I may not be doing the best. And but we do have those parents that, and what's the most difficult is that the parents that come when their child is not completely at the point to where they're involved in the criminal justice system, and they're asking everybody for help, and it's kind of in that range to where we try to do the best we can. And there are other ways, there are other type of services that may not be with us, but other services within the community we try to send them to. But contrary to belief, there are a lot of parents out there who are trying. They're doing the best they are.
I agree with that. Yeah. You know, quick story to everybody. You know, when I was, I think 16, I was kind of feeling myself. You know, I was on the wrestling team. You know, I was all ripped up. you know, and I think I mouthed off to my father one too many times, and he grabbed me by the collar, threw me in the car. Man, the next thing you know, we were at the police station. And he went up to this detective dude. He said, they were whispering, I guess, about me. And he said, I want you to talk to my son so he doesn't have to come here. And that detective took me in a room, and he must have been screaming at me for about 20 minutes. You know, and it started out screaming, but I was just so, you know, I was like, yeah, man, nobody, man. You know. Anyway, so when I left there, I was petrified. I didn't let him see it, but I was petrified. And that kind of straightened me out, because I never wanted to go there and deal with that dude ever again. You know, parents, you all know here at Pop Jr., we're trying to prevent gun violence, but it starts at the home. From everything that I've seen, it starts at the home. Now, you could end up, you know, you can end up with the chief, you know, but even the chief is trying to prevent that. So please, if you need help, reach out to the program that they have there. All right, how would they find these programs?
And they can go to our city's website,
okay,
and they'll have them up there. You have a whole list of them there.
Okay.
And I don't want people to think that, you know, if you see your neighbor having problems, and what I don't see a lot of, sometimes people don't intervene to help, you know, there's nothing wrong with helping your neighbor out too, is that it seems like recently everybody is, so they'd rather pick up the phone and call us instead of some time and just talk to their neighbor and say that, you know, as I know sometimes people aren't willing to accept their help, but sometimes I think they'd be surprised just to have a conversation and just develop those relationships with your neighbors.
Yeah. Understand
what they're doing and say, hey, I might can help you this and that. Who knows what might happen?
Well, you know, I'm not sure if it takes a village anymore. I'm not really sure. It used to be a village, you know. When I got it, you know, I'm an old dude, but when I got in trouble, if I got something happen around the corner or down the block, and Miss Susie saw it, she'd pick up the phone and talk to my parents. By the time I came home, when the light was going off, you know, my mother would be at the door, or worse, my father would be at the door, and I was like, ugh. And I knew it was going to happen once I got there, you know. So the whole everyone in the whole community would kind of not raise you, but they would keep an eye out for you, you know. And then if you did something to embarrass your parents, in their mind, like you know, like let's say you had a foul mouth and you cursing all the time, etc. I remember this vividly. You know, Miss Henderson came up. She said, I know Cleo, that's my mother's name, didn't teach you those words, boy. I said, well, I won't say what I said to her, but she said, oh, okay. And she went in the house, and by the time I got home, Cleo was sitting on the stoop waiting for me. And that was not a good night for me. You know, but you know, when you have these situations with the parents, the children, et cetera, when you're dealing with all of this, you've been dealing with this for 30 years. You've been seeing one side, and the thing about police officers, as I was told, like I said, I have there are a couple in my family. You know, oftentimes you see the worst side of people, or you see people at their worst. How do you deal with that? How do you go home and say, hey, you know, and just brush it off, or do you?
You have to have things that friends outside of policing. You have to have relationships outside of policing, because if not, you can find yourself becoming cynical. And you have to have things out like, I love to garden. That's my thing. That's my hobby, and that helps relaxes me. And recently my wife got a Yorkie, and that's been like,
Oh, cool.
he takes all my time, and that's like my, I never thought I'd be like one of those people, but I love that little dog. And
Yeah.
and it's like everybody tries to get a picture of me walking the dog, and I won't let them get a picture because he's so small, and that I refuse to let that happen. But you have to realize that you're meeting people a lot of times at their worst. When they're calling us in because they need help. And I always look at it as that the way I see them is probably not the way they are all the time. Mm-hmm. And you can't, judge us like police. We don't want people to judge us from what one officer may do that's bad or our worst time. I don't judge citizens from that one incident or when I see them that way, because I don't know the circumstances. I don't know the why behind it. And a lot of times people carrying around a lot of trauma, a lot of pain.
Absolutely.
That nobody knows about, that you don't know. And it's just that one incident could call a person go completely over the edge. And so once you really understand a person, when you sit down and talk with them, you get a better understanding as to the why.
Now, you have 30 years of background, so I'm sure that you get it and get the understanding why. But not every officer has been there for 30 years. So how do you separate someone having a really bad day from someone having a mental issue, or just someone being an idiot? I mean, how do you separate those types of things, and how do you address that?
Well, we actually train our officers. They have, it's called CIT training, critical incident training, and they are trained how to deal with people with mental illness and how to actually talk to them, approach them in different ways. And when I was coming up in policing, those were things that we didn't even get trained on. It was a lot of stuff that we didn't deal with, but our new officers now, they're trained specifically on how to pick different signs out. So they can tell the person who's having the mental issues versus the person who's just been straight disorderly, who could be dealt with in a different type of way. And policing has changed a lot to where we try to find the resolution versus that our first instinct is just to lock them up. Is that we look for, is there other alternatives first? And if we find those alternatives, we try to look at those alternatives first.
Okay, then Sergeant Genetti, because I'm probably going to jump in here, but but I'm going to talk about the media, and it seems like there's that. Well, first let me just back up for a second. Let me talk about politics, because early on when they were doing the presidential race, everybody wanted to get rid of the police, defund the police, etc., and so forth. I was going like, you guys are out of your doggone minds. It doesn't even make any sense, and still in some areas they still are trying to do that. How do you feel about that? What did you think about it when that happened, when you heard that they wanted to defund the police, and then all of a sudden it started taking traction?
Well, nobody's come up with an alternative.
No.
What do you do if you say, let's say you're successful, you defund the police, and somebody does break into your house, somebody does harm you, shoot your neighbor, shoot you or some family. What are you going to do? I mean, I think that people are looking for, are there alternatives to the way we do policing, are there better methods? But I think you're going to need policing. I think it's unrealistic to say that we can go with zero police at all and that would work if everybody did what they were supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
If nobody broke the law, if nobody were violent, sure, you wouldn't need the police. But when you have people that do those things, what are you going to do? Who are going to be the people that actually come in? Because you don't want vigilantes. You don't want people who aren't trained to do it. You don't want people who are going to be biased, because I think we've seen what could happen in the country before when we did that. Right. When we did have those mobs, lynch mobs and stuff. We don't want to go back to that type of vigilante justice. So I think you do need an organized police force. And can we do things better? Yes. And have we taken hits in the media? Yeah. We've taken some bad hits in the media.
Yeah,
and
but
some
I'm not
some
sure if it's
deserved
entirely
and
fair.
some of them, but
Yeah.
I still look at it though as that it doesn't represent who everybody is. Is that I see a lot of times to where something happens in Ferguson, but people in Hampton will protest. They will sometimes destroy property, and we try to tell people that didn't happen here.
Right.
That happened there. And so, but because of social media, we've become one country, one city. anything that happens, if there could be an incident that happened here in Hampton that could trigger riots throughout the entire country, which is, if you look at the Rodney King riots, you look at George Floyd, you look at Michael Brown, those are incidents that happened there. But what we kind of found out was that there were things going on underneath the surface that we may not have been aware of,
Absolutely.
that we couldn't have, that signs we missed, things that we thought we were doing and we thought we were on top of and we weren't.
You know, and I agree with everything that you're saying. The problem that I have with that is with the defunding the police is that it was getting traction in Congress. We have politicians that got the vote, the backing of the police, etc. Were turning around saying that, yeah, we ought to see it fund the police. I mean, and I just couldn't believe that. It was like, I can understand a group of people saying it, but what I can't understand is when politicians start doing it, start saying it, and start acting like maybe they were acting like they were backing it, or like it was an actual good idea. And my whole point was there was nothing good that could become of that. Now you have to have seen some of the things that I saw with the politicians. I mean, how did that make you feel?
Like I said, it's easy to say that if I live in my nice $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 house, I have a different community, and I'm not worried about crime. But for the person who every day, who may be sometimes sleeping under their bed because they're afraid of gunshots,
right,
or they're afraid to walk to the store at night, or they're afraid to go outside of their house, they don't feel the same way.
No.
So I think that's that disconnect. I tell anybody is that, and I even tell my officers, it shouldn't be how much my house costs, whether I'm safe at night. Everybody should be able to walk down the street at night, regardless of where you live. It shouldn't matter how much money I make. It shouldn't matter where I live. I should be able to sit on my porch at night. I should be able to enjoy myself. I shouldn't be afraid of gunshots. We've accepted to where if you have a certain income, you live in a certain neighborhood, then okay, you live here, so you're going to have gunshots. You're going to have that, and that shouldn't be acceptable. It shouldn't matter. Any of that shouldn't matter at all. I still should feel like I should be safe. People sometimes don't determine their situation. And you can't help it. So that shouldn't, to me, no matter what income I am, no matter where I live, I should still be treated the same. I still should feel safe.
I totally agree with that. And for you guys, by the way, I'm sitting here with Interim Chief Orrin Gallop. Give us a call at 757-964-9367. You want to say, if you want to give your opinion, if you want to say hi to the chief, or say hi to me, Big Al, 757-964-9367 if you want to call in. And this will be the time to do it. All righty. Now, Chief, you with the ones that are coming out of training, the ones that are getting on the streets there, they kind of, well, I shouldn't say they kind of, because I don't know. I would assume they want to do a good job and make a good name for themselves, etc. And some of them might be a little bit more ambitious than others. When you have a situation where, let's say, a police officer is a bit aggressive or doesn't listen, and I heard what you're saying as far as we have these training, et cetera, and so forth. Now, I haven't had a problem in Virginia with someone being pulled over or anything like that. That hasn't happened to me. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I see police officers all the time and speak to them, et cetera. There's been nothing negative happening with me. But when I talk to other people, they say, yeah, but he pulled me over, blah, 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 and this, that, the other. But I don't know what happened exactly. Mm-hmm. I just know what they're saying. What do you all do? What do you do with those police officers, the younger ones? I'm saying, and they pull somebody over to prevent escalation. The guy gets out the car, black guy, 6'4", whatever. How do you train them, and how do you get them from not being, for lack of a better word, nervous? And I would think that every stop you would be nervous at, but once again, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, they do have de-escalation training in the academy. We treat them how to do defensive tactics, how to handle situations, and we teach. The biggest weapon you have, most important weapon you have, is your mouth. To talk yourself talk people down from different situations. We go over that. All of our officers are equipped with body-worn cameras, and we do audits of our body-worn cameras. We look and we go back and we try to find incidents to where, and we found incidents where we looked at it and we said, this isn't the way we trained. And what we'll do is that we look at it different. If it's a training issue, we'll send them to training, but if it's so egregious, we'll open an internal affairs investigation ourselves to try to do corrective measures on it.
You do that yourself? You're proactive in that?
Yes, we've opened our own cases where if we find things sometimes before it gets reported, if we look at body-worn cameras or other, surprising that people may not realize that officers will report other officers. They see them doing something that's improper. That's what we teach them. We teach them that if you see an officer doing something, report it, because that's not the way we want it to be. So we do have that. A few of our cases actually come from officers working. They'll see something, they'll go and they'll tell their supervisor and say, I don't think this was proper, and we'll open an investigation.
Well, why isn't that narrative, as far as the policing themselves, why isn't that narrative being promoted a little bit more? Why don't we hear about those? I mean, if it's internal, we probably shouldn't hear about it, but why don't we know something about it? Because I hear all the negative. If you go to YouTube, it's nothing but negative. If you go to, Twitter, it's all negative. And I keep telling people it's not like that. It's not. Most of the guys that I know are good guys. I'm just telling you, etc. It's my cousin. I'm telling you, they're good guys. But we don't hear that narrative.
Because they're internal affairs investigations a lot of times, and they involve employee records and involve their employment. So there's certain things we can't release. And a lot of times what happens is that you may hear the person make the allegation, and let's say if it's not true or false. Rarely do on the other end we ever come back and publicly say this was not true, this is a lie. We just exonerate the officer and we move on from it. And we don't and you don't see that on our part of it, because we look at it, we don't want to, on the other end, even though it could be, we do have some false allegations, we never want to discourage people from filing a complaint, because even they may make a complaint that's difficult to prove, but we still don't want them to feel like if you file the complaint and it comes we can't prove it, we're going to slander you or we're going to throw everything out in public. We don't do that. And so that's why you see a lot of police departments, we don't. Most of the stuff we do is goes quiet. And plus, it's not exciting to watch on news to say that the officer did a proper traffic stop today, or he didn't.
What a great job Officer so-and-so did today.
Nobody wants to see that. Right. And then if you look at it, if you watch TikTok, Instagram, or that, what you'll see is that if you see those videos, you'll be like, all police officers are corrupt, all police officers are bad, but those are only so many that go over thousands and thousands of stops, and you may find so many that are bad. But if I put it on the social media, it can make it look worse. What I tell people, look at the counter, is that as black men, we don't like to be stereotyped. But if I put on a video of a black male doing something that's a crime, we don't want to be like, that doesn't represent all black men.
Right.
And so I tell them the same thing. So it's the same with police. Just because you see that with one, make sure you don't stereotype a judge, because it's going to come back on you the same way. The stereotype that you're putting on us, those same people that are doing that, when they say well, this person was black and they committed this crime, that means that all black males are going to do the same thing, all young black males. And we even tell our officers we never want to prejudge, because we don't want the same thing to happen with us.
And I totally agree with that. However, the narrative when it comes to police is that be careful when they pull you over the traffic stop, etc. And they're going to because it's ingrained in your head. Now, like I said, I'm the oldest one in the room, so there's certain things that I've seen, and I've seen things change, but people are still holding on to that. I talk to young kids, and they're like, man, there was a time back in the day when they had songs about the police, blank the police, all this stuff here, and I keep telling people things have changed, but when I talk to young kids, and that's the part that gets me when I talk to young kids, they're like, well, man, the police are this, the police are that, etc. So what are you doing then for the? I said, first of all, you shouldn't be seeing a police officer if you're doing the right thing, So what are you doing where a police officer is intervening with you? And then they tell me, I said, well, you shouldn't be doing that. I said, police officer's doing his job. And, why is there so much? And I think you may have hit on it already, but why is there so much coverage on the negative? On negative, because those are few and far between with police officers, in my opinion. But they get the most play, the most views on TikTok. They get, So why do they push that agenda, or why is that agenda prevalent?
Because, like I said, some of it is that we have made some mistakes. There have been some things that happen with police that have not been good, that have hurt us bad. It hurt all of us, and I think to where if something happens to me, I feel like then it must be true that's happening to everybody. And I think the narrative is that if I have a bad encounter with a police officer, then that's the way all police are. And I think that you see that, and then, and kind of my experience, almost becomes confirmed when I see it happen to someone on social media posted. Then I'll be like, okay, that happened to them, so that means it's everybody.
That's a very good point.
So once it happens with that, and I get a confirmation from other people on social media, so it may be like, okay, this happened, and with the thousands of police departments we have in America, you're going to have bad apples. There's no way you can get around that.
That's every company in America too.
We're going to have officers who shouldn't be hired, who fall through the cracks, and they're going to do some bad things, and we try to weed them out through the process of hiring, but sometimes they're there, and like I tell our guys, sometimes we can't have bad days, because my bad day could be the one time that everybody sees it, and it affects everybody else. So
it's a very good point.
And I think it's because of what's changed. A lot of it has been the technology, and everybody having the cell phones, everything being videotaped, and even with us with our body-worn cameras, everything is public now, and so that once everybody can see it, things that may have happened in the past that you weren't able to see, everybody can see it now.
That's true, and I think for that reason too, a lot of people reach the conclusion far too quickly, because before they even have all the facts, and that's the part that annoys me. When George Floyd was killed, I mean, he should not have died there. However, we didn't have all the facts, and I just thought that we kind of jumped in the water in the deep end before we knew what was going on, and now that we have the facts, it's like, it's a little different, and I want to ask you to comment on that.
Okay.
I want to ask you to comment on that, but now that we have the facts, it's like, you sure you want to put his Porsche on the wall? You sure you want to be push this guy up? I mean, are you sure that's the guy that the community wants to push up? Yeah, I kind of take exception to it, but that's just one man talking with a podcast. Okay, now let's get back to the city of Hampton, sir. What are your plans for the city of Hampton? What is you said recruitment was one of the top things. Okay, recruitment and training. First of all, how do you recruit? Secondly, why should someone want to become a police officer?
We recruit all over. We go from what we found out was been successful is using social media. We go to any place that we think we can find the people. We'll go local, anywhere, and it's an honorable profession. And it's like I tell people, there's not too many professions where you can actually impact somebody's life.
Right.
Where I've had people come to me years and say that you may not remember, but that one time you stopped me and you gave me a break, it changed my whole life. It
must be gratifying.
It's a profession where you can make a good living from. You can earn a good living. You go home at night and you can feel good about yourself. You can feel like you made a difference. You had an impact. And especially with us within the black community where we're looking for more. And I tell a lot of young black males is this. There are two ways you can make change, internal and external. I think we're doing good on the external where we, but what about some of those of you that actually join the police department and you could be in my position and you can make those decisions where you can affect different things. You can decide on policies. That's real powerful. And if we had more to join, they would have that impact. And I think sometimes they don't see that the change internally is just as important as the change externally.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and I think all police departments having trouble recruiting people. One, because of the defunding the police thing. Also because of social media. Yeah, and once again, that's just my opinion. But what do you look for in a recruit as far as becoming a police officer? What are you looking for? What are you saying? Okay, that's the person, that's the young man or young woman that I want to hire.
Person who's honest, who's trustworthy, who cares about people, who has good ethics about them, who they want to learn. You could tell that and one of the requirements we're looking at, we want you to get engaged in the community. We have the basic requirements of, the physical fitness and different things and stuff like that. But we want people who, they don't just join the police department, just for look at it as just a job. We want them to be like, you're also part of the community. Right. You're joining the city. You want to help people. You want to, it's not if you make arrests, it's because you're doing it to benefit someone else. You're doing it because this is the best thing to do in that situation. We want people who feel like they can make a positive impact on other people's lives there, and people who put other people's interests ahead of them, to where, there's no doubt in my mind that the officers that we have, they're willing to risk their lives for complete strangers. And every one of them I know who have no problem every day, when they're hunting down some of these felons, people who may have completely disliked the police, who feel a certain way, those same officers have no problem risking their lives. And to me, that's what makes me feel good when I see these young officers, and I know how they do care. And I know sometimes they get a bad rap about it, but I guess I see the reports every day, and I listen to the radio, right. And I see what they do, and I see how hard it takes, how hard they take it when they see a young kid that has killed, and when they have to go to those autopsies, or they go to the scene, when they see a victim of domestic violence, when they see the impact that has on a family, or a mother who's accidentally rolled over on top of her child, and they have to go to those scenes, and they see that. So, I want people who have that compassion, who understand, where they say, for by the grace of God, that could be me over there, and they're willing to, walk in someone else's footsteps.
Okay. And what are the fun qualifications that you have to become a police officer, education, things like that?
High school graduate, 21 years of age, good driving record.
I'm assuming no criminal record.
No criminal record.
Even if it's sealed? You have one
depends.
When I was 17, maybe 16, 17, and
well, if it's certain things that 17 may be close, because there may be certain things you did at 17 that it could still seal as an adult. But we still look at that, is that we have a person, let's say you're 14 years old and you had like a small vandalism or trespassing, or you hit that nobody cares about.
Right.
Those things like that. I know we've, it used to be, that we were strict on tattoos, and we're not on that anymore, to where we have people with tattoos. Marijuana is one of those also. We've become more lenient. The ones that we're more strict on are certain drugs like cocaine, those types of things like that. We're still strict on those. And that's basically it. You go through the process. We go through the physical agility training, and we have an interview process, and that's what it takes.
Okay.
It's not as difficult sometimes as people think. You go through the psychological polygraph examination. We still have that, and you go through, and then at the end of it, we have a personal interview with me.
Okay. So you have a person with all the candidates?
Yeah, the ones who that are recommended for hiring, we do a final one-on-one interview.
Interesting. Okay. And how many? And as of right now, how many officers are you looking to hire?
I believe we're close to, I think, around 40 in our vacancies where we have short.
Okay.
And if you look at it, in order to, we
That
still have to
sounds
take
like a lot.
We have to take into account to where we have so many who retire, who leave, that they may come into police and find out it's not what they want to do.
Right.
So we have to almost hire at a certain pace to keep up with the people that are leaving. Okay. So with that 40, we have to hire a certain number, and then we're competing with the rest of the region, because we're allocated 315 sworn, but when I look at some of the other agents that are larger, their numbers are a lot higher.
Right.
And so we're competing with them too. So everybody's competing for the same group of people, and then it includes even the federal side.
Oh, okay. I didn't think of that.
So it's over the past, like I said, the image of policing took a beating, and it's hurt recruiting, it's hurt on some of the retention, and we're starting to see the effects of it. The things that happened years ago are now starting to have an effect. And we get to that point to where I have to make decisions all the time, is that even things that the number of people, I couldn't promote as many people as I wanted to because we have the vacancies. And we have to look at how do we do certain things I may want to do. We have to cut back because I don't have a certain amount of people to do it. So all the agencies we have to make changes in. We have to make adjustments, see that how do we deliver services better? What are the services that we really need to deliver? So we have to make those choices when we have these vacancies.
So young men and young women out there, please consider becoming a police officer, preferably here at Hampton. But Hampton
definitely here in Hampton.
He said definitely here in Hampton. Listen, if you want to come out there, like Chief said, it's not that difficult to apply. High school education, you have to have a big heart, you have to have a good heart, you have to have the intention of helping people. They need you. So for you out there sitting there, I don't know what I'm gonna do, I don't have a job, blah, consider being a police officer. High school education, and not only that, but we also have Norfolk State, we got Hampton University, we got Thomas Nelson, we Peninsula Community. Consider it. Now I've never been a police officer, but like I said, I had one of my cousins, Charles Baines, was Deputy Sheriff Charles Baines, who has passed away now, but as of last year. But he was a police officer, and he highly recommended it. I had another cousin that went in. He got in, got out. Which did not surprise me at all. But for the most part, they need you. Okay, so you have no excuse not to apply. All right, go check it out. Okay, don't prejudge. All right, so as police chief, you got the city of Hampton. We got about 150,000 people, give or take. Mm-hmm. All righty. What are your plans? What are your priority plans for Hampton?
What do you mean?
Well, as far as let me just read this. It says Hampton Road cities make lists of top 25 safest cities in Virginia. Now, here's the list, and this was 2019. Don't look at me like that. she's looking at me, biting the lip and everything. Like, okay, now this is interesting. Okay, number 7, Virginia Beach. Number 12, Chesapeake. Which I talked to some officers over there too. They're very proud of Chesapeake, by the way. Okay, crime. What are you talking about? You can't. Those guys are something else. Okay, number 13, Suffolk. This is 2019. I'm saying this because this is the next one. Mm-hmm. Number 16, Newport News. I have no idea how. Anyway, so number 17, Hampton. Number 22, Norfolk. Number 25, Portsmouth. Okay, those last two. Okay, anyway, those last two. Actually, sometimes I drive Lyft, but I don't even drive in Portsmouth at night. So anyway, he's like, no. But so in other words, I don't know if those rankings are current right now. Those are the best that I could find. Okay, I have no idea where Hampton ranks, but. It usually ranks at one of the safer cities in Virginia, from what I could tell over the last 7-8 years that I looked. Okay, how do you plan on keeping it that way? How do you plan on keeping the city safe and then safer?
Well, I want it to be higher. I want us to be in like the safest city.
Okay.
And what I've done and what I've instructed our people is that anyone who harm any of our citizens, there need to be some type of consequences for it. And so like I said, we have the list where we develop a vulnerability list. We're looking at the people who are committing the violent crime. We're looking at those people we have to deal with. We have to take those off the street, those repeat offenders. And if we do some of those things, because like I said, it's a small group of people who are committing most of the crime. And if you see it in Hampton, they go across from Hampton to Newport News. You see our city, since we're joined together, a person may live in Newport News, but they committed crime in Hampton or vice versa. So we're going to be working on projects together, both Hampton and Newport News, because I don't want to run anything into another city. I don't want that, because that doesn't help us, is that we have to fix it. So I'm looking at, one of the first things I'm doing is that the people who have actually committing crimes do a better job of, providing some type of solace to the victim and apprehending those people. Also looking at making conditions so that people don't commit the crime. Find those, looking at what could we do to make his neighborhood more of where a person comes into it and they don't commit crime. Like for right now, half of our guns that are stolen are coming from unlocked cars. That people are just going, open a gun, and people, you'll be amazed at how many people are keeping guns in unlocked cars. So nearly 50% of people, they're not even trying. They just go pull the car door open, and they taking a weapon. That's where most of our, at least half of our stolen guns are coming from.
Okay.
If you leave your door unlocked, car door unlocked, people are more likely to go through and check every car in that whole entire neighborhood. There are small things that we can do to make it safer, and we're trying to push that more. Say, if you do these little things here, you actually make your neighborhood safer. You actually prevent someone from committing a crime. And because once that I go into a neighborhood and I do one thing, then I'm going to do more things. I'm not going to just look at for the car. So those are type of things that I'm looking at. But what I want to do is first thing is that people that are those violent felons, that small group, they have a bigger impact. You're impacted when someone gets shot and you see those gunshots. That carries a whole stigma to it, and that puts fear in a neighborhood. Once you can reduce that, then you look at all the other types of things, make it safer so that people don't feel like I could just go into someone's house and break into the different things to do. So we're looking at all those different things together, and also working with the city and some of the interventions that we have a whole package together to where it's not just on the enforcement end, it's on the prevention end. And even with the school system, we work with them on how do we do everything together, how do we tie it together.
Right. So it's interesting. So one thing, so what you're saying that one thing that can be done is that people be more vigilant as far as locking doors and things like that. Little simple things.
Little small things, just just looking out. And like I always say, if you see something, say something, call us. That having some interest in your neighborhood, looking out for your neighbor and things like that. Those small things like that do have an impact. There are things, but also there are other things that I understand that it takes more into it. It's not. And when you look at the actual violent crime, you really have to take a real deep analysis as to the core reasons why. Why is this person doing this? Why are they doing that? What can I do? What's the best type of interventions? And we're doing that type of work to see what can we have better field, because some of the things that we've seen is a big problem in this area is domestic violence. Domestic violence is a big driver of a lot of things, because the first time a child sees violence is normally is not on the street, is they see in the house. And that's the almost like the dirty secret that we don't talk about. We don't talk about the domestic violence that drives so much of these numbers, to where one of the common denominators I've seen a lot of crime is domestic violence. I've seen that when I break it down to where I see the children start out in either some domestic violence, sometimes you've seen in the custody issues or abuse, and that drives the whole thing.
Are you just so I'm clear, are you saying that the children witness the violence and then they internalize it, and then they can become violent?
They can become victims of it. It becomes behavior they believe is okay. They see that to where it's and then some of them is that's their way of almost, they leash out because they're helpless. You're a child and you see what happened to your mom or somebody in your family, so the gun becomes a way is the equalizer. Because if you see a lot of people with guns, these aren't like big people like 6'4", 300 pounds. These are small people who the gun
little tiny dudes.
yeah, the gun gives them power.
Right.
It gives them something that they don't have. And you see a lot of these people, when you look at them, they're not. And you look at them, you're like, these are, not big kids or anything like that. And so domestic violence is a problem to where is that, but no one really talks about that part of it. If we can work on ways to fix those types of things, that really has a big impact also.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. But so we get back to it starts in the home. Okay, get back to it starts in the home, and that's something that the police cannot reach inside your home and raise your kids or help you. Now, if you're going through something that's violent, going through something that's bad, you can reach out to them. But a lot of crime, a lot of kids that are doing the crime, like the chief just said, they may witness a crime in their home, domestic violence. Like you said, no one talks about that. No one addresses that. And they may see it over and over and over and over again. And until it becomes almost normal. I know I've known families to go through that. I think we all have. Know some families that have gone through that. So one of the reasons why I'm having this show because I want a lot of people to understand that the police are not bad, and they're made up of good people. Now, I know some of you run into bad police officers. There is no company in the world that doesn't have bad people, bad employees in it that should not be. There's no company, I name a company, I don't care, Elon Musk, name it. It doesn't matter. Okay, there's always a few bad eggs in every single company. The police being no exception. But the reason why we're having this conversation is to let you know that, hey, these guys are human. They have families. Every day they want to go home to their families. They do not want to see violence. They prefer not to deal with violence. I was talking to a guy who said, "Hey man, I never had to really pull my gun." And he was proud of that. And that's the kind of police officer that we're looking for. Someone that can use his brain first, and to help first, and then use their and have their heart kind of mitigate what's going on. So Chief, I thank you for showing up. I thank you. And before you say, is there anything before we close out here? Is there anything do you want to say? Want to close with?
Appreciate you for having me on because I enjoy this type of, and I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy getting to know everybody in the community. I want them to know that we're accessible, that you can approach us, and that I love being in the city. And they're good people. And each day, like I say, my goals when I go home, I always say to myself, I want to feel good about myself. Right. I want to feel good about the job that I do. And when I meet the people and I see the officers that work for me, their dedication, I meet citizens sometimes who, do selfless acts where they're not even looking for anything. They don't want it. That kind of reaffirms that there are a lot of good people here. And that's why I definitely want to put that out there. There are a lot of good people in the city, and there are people who want to do good for everybody. And one correction when I said that we had already started a national search for the chief. They hadn't started yet. So I want
they may not need to.
I want to make sure that.
I'm just saying. You got my vote. That's right. You got my vote. You got my vote. You see. And, by the way, this a fact here. Okay, now this was rather recent. It's 2020. Hampton was the only local city to report a drop in murders in 2022.
That was true. That was factual.
The department investigated 24 homicides in 2022, which is a slight decrease from 27 homicides reported in 2021. I know you guys saying that, well, that's not many, but it's a decrease. Okay, and we only have 150 people, 50,000 people here in Hampton. So that makes a huge difference. Kudos to you, sir.
Thank you.
Kudos to you, ma'am. Okay, she's not here. Yeah. Listen, folks, this has been fun for me, and like I said, it is. I'm just trying to let you know that there are people out there that the police officers are human, just like you, just like me. They're human. Okay. Don't believe everything that you see on YouTube and TikTok and all that stuff. Okay. Don't believe everything that you see on the news. Okay, because they're sensationalizing. They're sensationalizing. There's very few good news. There's not too much good news on the news. because it doesn't make news. No one wants to watch that, okay? But a lot of times you're going to be seeing the exception and not the rule. When you see police officers on YouTube and TikTok doing bad things, that's more the exception, not the rule. But if you see it enough, you think it is the rule. Okay, you will be wrong. So I want to take this time again to congratulate Chief Orrin Gallop for being chosen as interim chief. I hope that moves into being a chief, and if it does, I hope you come on the show again. Okay, as full-fledged chief. Okay, because I think that's what's going to happen. I don't see why they would conduct them. I don't see why they're going to have you here 30 years and all that. You know, so I'm pulling for you, sir.
Okay.
All right.
Blessings. I hope y'all can hear me okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming to Powered by Virginia so that we can put a face to all your wonderful work.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. And I also like to say happy born day, happy birthday. I would have everyone say that to Lau, the owner and the founder of Powered by Virginia. Happy birthday, Lau.
Happy birthday,
We
Lau.
love you.
Yeah, that's right. On Juneteenth, can't forget it now. It's Juneteenth. You know, Lau's birthday, Juneteenth.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't buy him nothing though. I'm just saying.
We're here.
You know, that's right.
We still
I didn't buy him
running
nothing, but happy birthday, brother.
Yes.
You know, listen, thank y'all for coming by. Listen, I'm going to sign off right now. Black Rose, blessings. My music, please, because we are out.
Powered by Virginia. Radio.